the pitch. Line drive, there it is! Into left field! Hit number 3,000! A run is scored! Musial ran first, on his way to second with a double! Holy cow!
Hank Gibson is one strike away from the no-hitter. He takes off his cap. He mops his brow. He looks in and gets the sign. He starts the windup. Here's the pitch, and it's a strike call! A no-hitter for Gibson! Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go! Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! It's a home run, and the Cardinals have won the game by the score of 3-2 on a home run by the Wizard.
Breaking ball, hit off the pitcher, to the third baseman, down play, base hit, 3,000 for a home run.
Breeze hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
Suter from the belt to the plate, a swing and a miss, and that's the winner! That's the winner! A World Series winner for the Cardinals!
Left center, Bader, diving catch, oh, what a play! Carpenter with a drive, into left center, at the wall, gone! It's gone! Three-run homer, Carpenter! DeYoung with a drive, into deep left, at the track, at the wall, gone! Cardinals have the lead! The 2-2. Fowler swings and sends the ball into the right field corner. Hayward up and over the fence. Hayward got a glove on it. But Dexter Fowler has just walked it off. Michaelis with a drive. Deep left field. First career hit. Gone! A home run. He does it in style. A two-run shot for his first major league hit. Munoz with a drive. Into center. It's at the wall. Look it up. Here's a 1-2 pitch. And a strikeout. Ponce de Leon, his first strikeout in the major leagues. There he goes, and Molina from his knees. Oh, my! Wow!
Hi, I'm Miles Michaelis,
This is Marshall Falk,
and you're listening
and you're listening
to The Usual Suspects.
to The Usual Suspects.
Well, what is up, guys? My name's Brad, and I am just going to be the usual suspect tonight. Aaron should be around and in the chat. He's feeling a little under the weather. He's lost his voice, so it wouldn't do him much good to come on air and then not be able to say anything because he can't talk. So, this is episode 4 of season 4. It's amazing that we've made it this far. It's pretty awesome to me. This is just a little passion project of Aaron and I's. And what we like to do is just talk about Cardinals baseball. So where we are at right now, just for the archive, where we're at right now is this is the All-Star break. Tonight's going to be the Home Run Derby. This is the Home Run Derby, and I'm calling this now. It doesn't start until 7, I think, our time. I'm calling it now. This is the Home Run Derby where the longest home run ever hit will be hit. So probably like Shohei Ohtani or somebody like that. But anyway, they're in Denver. You'll probably read about that in the history books too, about how they moved it from Atlanta to Denver. But they're in Denver. There's no humidor. It's a warm night. The ball should be flying tonight. So I won't take up too much of your time. I just want to talk about the halfway point of the season. Where are the Cardinals now? What can they do to get better? And what do we think will happen for the rest of the season? So as they sit right now, the Cardinals are 44 and 46, I believe. 8 games behind the Brew Crew for the lead in the division, in the Central Division. The Cardinals' record would maybe have them in second. Probably not in second, though, because they've played 2 more games than Philadelphia and 1 more than Atlanta, even though they're short 1 game because they got rained out yesterday. So they would probably be in 3rd or 4th in the East and then nowhere close in the rest of the division. So having gotten Nolan Arenado at the break. I would say where the Cardinals sit, 8 games out. Their last 10, they're 5-5, and they're on a winning streak of 1. I don't know if that counts as a winning streak, really. But things are better now than what they have, and that should point to how poorly things have been going for them in the past. So the Cardinals are, I guess that puts them in 4th in the Central. They had picked up Nolan Arenado. That was the big splash. That was probably the biggest splash made in Major League Baseball in the offseason, and it's something that we as Cardinals fans have been clamoring for forever. Nolan Arenado. Let's get Nolan Arenado. Let's get Nolan Arenado at third. We'll have Goldschmidt at first, and we will have this solid middle of the infield, probably the best infield in baseball, that kind of thing. And what ended up happening was not what we thought would happen, which is really, really unfortunate. So it appears to me that where the Cardinals are at is, to me at least, it's a disappointment. Everybody thought they would at least be above 500, not 2 games below 500. If I'm wrong, comment in the chat. I'll see it. I'll pull it up. Tell me why I'm wrong or what you thought. If you always thought the Cardinals wouldn't be above 500 at the All-Star break, comment, like I said, and let me know why. But anyway, so they should have been above 500. At least that's what I was expecting out of them. I was expecting more offensive pop out of them. They rank in the bottom of the league in most of that area. They don't really seem to be doing well with their bullpen, which was supposed to be a strength. And then the pitching in general was supposed to be a strength, and they have had control issues. So this is where the Cardinals sit. So my question for you all is, what can be done to fix this situation? What can the Cardinals do to make themselves better? Can they do something to make themselves better? And then we'll talk about what we expect them to do, right? So what should they do, what can they do, and what do we expect them to do? That's 3 different things, right? We're not really expecting much movement from the front office because the front office has this history of not really moving much at the deadline. And when they do make moves, it's usually like low-level moves. They don't make the big trade deadline splash really too much anymore. As a matter of fact, I can't think of who the last big trade deadline splash was that this team made. They do most of their work in the offseason, and then they throw, the 3 C's at you? It's complicated. It would confuse things. I forget what the other one is. But anyway, they throw the 3 C's at you, and then they say, hey, it is what it is, basically. So what can the Cardinals do? What do the Cardinals need to do? Let me get into that first of all. What the Cardinals need to do is, the pitchers who have thrown strikes in the past 2 seasons need to continue to throw strikes or start throwing strikes again. That is the biggest problem that the pitching faces. Walks, hit by pitches. They don't have control. And when your pitching staff doesn't have control, you put people on base unnecessarily. And when you put people on base unnecessarily, what you end up doing is putting undue stress on yourself as the pitcher and undue stress on your offense, which is proven that is not a dynamic offense. It is a very underwhelming offense. The Cardinals were supposed to be a team that was supposed to score a couple runs and then lean on their pitching. Well, their pitching has failed them, and their offense has been worse than even what we thought it would be. We thought it would get better with getting Nolan Arenado in the lineup, and it really should have, but it hasn't. A couple of things that have surprised me over the first half. One, I am surprised at how much Harrison Bader means to this team. I think that Harrison Bader is way more important to this lineup than anybody ever expected, right? We thought, hey, yeah, he brings this dynamic speed to the team. He brings this dynamic glove to the team. But what I've seen when he's been healthy is he's matured as a hitter. He's laid off the breaking ball away from a right-handed hitter. As a matter of fact, when he came back from the IL, he hit 2 home runs off of breaking balls off of pitchers who would usually get him to swing and miss on that pitch. So he hit those home runs. Now, granted, he was in Colorado, and home runs are a little easier in Colorado. However, to see him lay off that pitch or to make contact with that pitch and not swing through it is really big. He's still good in center field. I would say he's an elite defensive player field wise, and that's really good to see that he has picked up the hitting aspect of his game. But to the people who have commented to me, both here and on Twitter, that the problem with this team is Matt Carpenter and Harrison Bader, I would say the past 2 weeks have proven otherwise. Matt Carpenter has been hitting really well. Aaron, if you're in the chat, I don't know if you can pull this up for me, but look and see what he's batting. But I feel like he's batting over the past month 250, 260, something like that. He's been hitting really well. He's raised his average up to, I think, like 198 he's at now. I don't know offhand what his OPS plus is, but anyway, you can look all that stuff up, Baseball Reference and all that other fun stuff. It is a great tool for you all. So anyway, Matt Carpenter, so that gets me to the other thing. Matt Carpenter is starting to heat up. Matt Carpenter is playing well. Matt Carpenter is hitting well, at least compared to what he had been doing last year and most of the first part of this season. So to see Matt Carpenter heating up, Harrison Bader getting back in this lineup, I like what they're doing. I don't think that they're the problems offensively. I think your problems offensively lie with your leadoff hitter. I've said in seasons past that the Cardinals really don't have a true leadoff hitter. They put Matt Carpenter there for a while. They put Dexter Fowler there for a while. They put Colton Wong there for a while. And when this team was really, really rolling, that's when Tommy Edman was having a lot of success. This offense goes the way of the leadoff hitter. If you don't have a leadoff hitter in this offense, you don't have anything. So I think they need to solve that issue. I don't know what that looks like, though, to be honest with you. What can you do? Who in the lineup would you be willing to sacrifice so that you can get a solid leadoff hitter? What can the team do as far as that goes? The other thing is, too, Dylan Carlson, he's young. I think he's still a rookie. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, but to bat him second is putting an awful lot of pressure on him. And he did really well early, and now he's kind of fallen off. Same thing with Tommy Edman. He did really well early, and now he's kind of fallen off. But I'll tell you who's really disappointed me has been Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt needs to be an anchor in this lineup. We need the Paul Goldschmidt of last season, not the Paul Goldschmidt that we're getting this year. He is well below his career in average, OPS plus, slugging, anything you want. You can put it on there. He is well below that. And the question is, why? Yeah, here's Aaron right here. He says, going to be hopping out in and out to comment along. Voice is basically gone. I should be back next week so you can see both of our beautiful faces. Well, one of us has a beautiful face, and it isn't me. So glad to see that you're in the chat there, Aaron. I want to see this team focus on getting these guys going. Now, I don't necessarily know what the problem is. I have some theories, right? Why aren't the players who hit? For example, I've seen some tweets about John Nogowski, right? You guys saw that John Nogowski had been traded for cash considerations to Pittsburgh. He's traded to Pittsburgh, and there he's starting to have some success. And then you look back at guys like Luke Voit. Well, he's gone to New York, and really, Luke Voit has been amazing for New York. Then you look at guys like Patrick Wisdom. Well, Patrick Wisdom was in the Cardinals organization for like 11 years or something like that. And then they send him off, and I think he went to Texas and didn't really do much. And then he gets to Chicago, and he's having one heck of a month or so up there. So much so that they're playing him in positions that he doesn't usually play in just to get his bat in the lineup. So what we want to see is we want to know why these guys are underperforming. Why is it that a player that has really not had a lot of success in the Cardinals organization goes to another team and then starts having success? Randy Arozarena is a perfect example. Now, Randy Arozarena had a lot of success at the AAA level, but he came up, and I would say that a lot of the reason he didn't have a lot of success at the major league level is because he really just didn't play all that much. And when he got consistent playing time, he did really well. Adolis Garcia, am I saying that right? Adolis Garcia, he was in the Cardinals organization. Cardinals released him. He didn't have a lot of success. He was then in the Texas Rangers, picked up by the Texas Rangers, and then released by the Texas Rangers, then picked up by the Texas Rangers again, and he has since had a pretty good year. So why are the Cardinals players underperforming? You see players come from outside the organization with really good numbers, get into the organization, and you see those numbers fall off. Why? What is it about it? So there's a couple things that I can think of. One of the things that I can think of is you look at the ballpark, right? I don't know how many of you guys realize this, but St. Louis is considered, Busch Stadium is considered a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. Makes it harder to hit. So maybe the kind of balls that you hit that had success in, say, like for Marcell Ozuna's case, success in Miami, don't fall in St. Louis. It's easier to get to than it is in Miami. The ball sails better down there or something like that. I mean, definitely Coors Field, hitter's ballpark, humidor or not, part of it could be that. I don't know what Arizona is like as far as a hitter's ballpark in the case of Paul Goldschmidt. And like Aaron said, Goldie's always been a strikeout guy, but he's been able to produce alongside of that. We're not really seeing a lot of production out of these guys. We're not seeing the production out of those guys that we expected to see. So what I that's part of the question. Is St. Louis that hard of a park to hit at? Well, I don't know, because then you got to go back and you got to look at guys like Albert Pujols, who just put up gaudy numbers playing in St. Louis. Absolutely filthy, gaudy numbers, historical numbers, right? Albert Pujols is on the verge of 700 home runs, and he hit a lot of those in St. Louis. I would say he hit the majority of those in St. Louis. So why is it then the players that come here don't succeed? Well, I think part of that you have to look at the coaching staff. The Cardinals didn't have a lot of success with John Mabry as their hitting coach, and so, I remember us clamoring for that. They got to let him go. They got to let him go. They got to let him go. And they did. They let him go whenever they let Mike Matheny go in the middle of 2018, I think it was. And so we watched him in 2018, and they brought in Mike Schilt, and then, I can't say his name, Buddha. I just know they called him Buddha. They brought him in to be the interim hitting coach. And we watched the offense kind of spring to life. Now, Buddha was the hitting coach at the minor league level, so a lot of the guys that were minor leaguers were familiar with him. They had a good relationship with him, and they knew what worked for them down there. And so they bounced back. The Cardinals went on a run. Unfortunately, in 2018, I believe they fell short of the playoffs by scuffling across the finish line, right? They were really hot, and then like the last couple weeks of the season, they just really weren't. And they fell across the finish line, ended up missing the playoffs by a Budasaka. Am I saying that right? I hope I'm saying that right. But anyway, they fell across the finish line and missed the playoffs. But hey, that was good, right? The offense went from to okay, I see what we're doing here, and we're having some success. And then the Cardinals made a big splash move, right? They got, thanks, Darren. He said close enough. They made a big splash, and they brought in Jeff Albert. And Jeff Albert was supposed to be this hitting guru who was under the Budaska, Aaron says. Aaron does it phonetically for me. Budaska. All right. So they bring in Jeff Albert. They bring in Jeff Albert to basically revamp this entire system, right? We're going to have this advanced system that they brought in from Houston, camera angles, video, all of this other stuff, so these hitters can analyze their swings, do advanced analytics, and all this scientific stuff that they do, slow motion, fast motion. And they're going to do all this stuff, and he's going to do it top to bottom, right? So when I say top to bottom, he is going to implement his system from the major league level all the way down to single A and spring training ball. His system is going to be in place through all of it. So he comes in, and they didn't really have a lot of success under him in 2019. Yes, that's the year they got Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt came in, and he kind of underperformed a little bit that year. So he jumps in, and he starts implementing our system. Well, a lot of people were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's just kind of doing this. He's new. He hasn't implemented his system. It's going to take the players some time to adapt to it, that sort of thing. So he does that, right? The season ends. What ends up happening? Well, this whole big thing about why the Astros hitting was so good comes out, and it's them banging on trash cans, right? They're stealing signs. They're using video technology to steal signs. Now, they caught them. They caught that, and all this went down. So the question is Jeff Albert's system really that good, or was it a product that was kind of oversold because basically what was happening was the Astros were cheating? These are the questions we need to ask. Now, Aaron here says this. One issue is his system legitimately could take a couple more years to start showing real progress. But I agree with him here. But having to watch mediocre baseball in the meantime is not on the minds of current fans, which is 100% accurate, especially if your goal is to be competitive. Now, the thing I will say is this. The one player that you really hear singing the praises of Jeff Albert is Paul DeYoung. But he's also the one player who's consistently underperformed since Jeff Albert got here. He was really good in 2018 when he popped up, and then he just kind of fell off. And we contributed that to him getting, I think, was it 2019 where he played 160 of the 162 games? We contributed to him being overplayed and all that other stuff. Last year, you can't really use that argument because they played such a small season. This year, you look at it and you go, well, he hasn't been overplayed. Guys are taking playing time away from him. So why is he so bad now? And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that in a, let's look at the numbers. It's terrible. Aaron says his splits from before and after Albert are remarkable. So that split happens at the 2018 to 2019 season if you guys want to look that up. But as a matter of fact, I probably could look it up. But if I look it up, I'll probably draw my attention away from you, and you guys don't want to hear me type. So if you guys want to pull that up on like Baseball Reference or something like that, you can. And you can just kind of see what is going on here. No, they're not connected necessarily. There's a correlation. But if you guys remember school, correlation doesn't equal causation. We don't know if they're connected, but it's just something to keep an eye on because it seems like he's one person that really likes what Jeff Albert's doing. He's really been a fan of it, but it hasn't paid off for him. So whenever we start talking about what the Cardinals can do to get better for the second half of the season, and this is what Darren says about 2020. 2020 is a wash year on numbers. If you play a full 162 example, for example, Albert Pujols could hit 700 of this year. It could hit 700 this year instead of 675. Yeah, 2020 cost Albert Pujols pretty big. So maybe you throw 2020 out. I know a lot of us do. But we saw, at least for stretches, what the team is capable of. We saw good hitting from Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt led the team in most major offensive categories. We saw that. We know what he's capable of. So the question is why isn't he doing it? And I know he's always kind of like, well, when it heats up, he gets better. And that's like, man, I was mowing grass in June, and it was 100 degrees. It's been hot for a while. What gives? What's going on? So why? Yeah, this is Aaron talking more about DeYoung. He seems to be a smart guy. I imagine analytics are a huge part of his play. I just wish that equaled success. Yeah. So maybe that's why he likes it. He likes the analytics. Paul DeYoung, I believe, had a science major whenever he was at Illinois State. And the only reason I know he went to Illinois State is because that's where my wife went to get her degree. So this scientific approach to hitting seems to be something that would appeal to his personality, and I agree with Aaron there. But when we talk about what the Cardinals can do to get better, trying to get myself back on track here, but what the Cardinals can do to get better, we talk about things like hitting. Well, where can we improve hitting? Because I don't think they're going to get rid of Jeff Albert. I don't see Mike Schilt going anywhere. And frankly, I'm not sure if that's the right answer or not. There are some issues that they're showing, and this is just it, right? The Cardinals want to get back to fundamental baseball. As of late, I've seen them make errors. And again, when you talk about the hitting struggling, your offense struggling, what you can do, you can ill afford to give away extra bases, extra outs. Anytime they do something like that, it's more than likely to come back and bite you. That's why John Gant had so much trouble in the starting rotation. He would walk too many people, and at some point, a bloop hit is going to get through. Somebody's going to put a good swing on a ball. And then instead of it just being a single with nobody on, well, it's a single that scores a couple runs because you've walked the bases loaded. So the question is what can the Cardinals do? Well, coaching-wise, I don't know that anything's going to move on the needle, but I do believe that Mike Shildt is the kind of person that can get back to basics as far as focusing on the fundamentals. So I think to have success in the second half, the Cardinals need to tighten up their game. This is a good point too, and I've played on teams where whenever the pitcher is having struggling with command and walking, your defense gets on. I should leave this up longer. Your defense kind of gets on their heels. You get kind of bored, and then when the ball's hit, you're like, oh, the ball's in play, and you get caught watching the game. That's not big leaguers are not immune to that. Good comment there, Chris. Big leaguers are not immune to that. So that could be part of the problem. But like I was saying, it's the coach's job to keep the players focused. So what can Mike Shildt do? He can get his guys back focused on the fundamentals, right? You're not going to be an offensive dynamo, so you've got to go with good pitching and good defense. And they both play off of one another. Good defense leads to good pitching leads to good defense. Ground balls, easy ground balls are easier to play defense on. Which means that you have to throw strikes. You can't defend a walk. The walks and the hit by pitches are what's really killing the pitching, if we're honest. It's control issues, which it's not just one or two guys. It's a bunch of guys that are having control issues. So you can't really look at any one player and be like, okay, well, let's just not really use this guy, or let's send this guy down to get it figured out. You've got to get it figured out at this level, and when it's everybody doing it, it leads me to believe it's something systemic. It's something in the system. It's something that they're missing, that they're not focusing on. So what can the Cardinals do to do that? Well, I think, they need to just start focusing on it. Why aren't you throwing strikes? What is it about, your mechanics, or what is it mentally even speaking? Do you not trust your stuff? That's something the coaching staff can do on. That's also why I say that Mike Shildt is capable of that. Mike Maddox is a capable pitching coach. We've seen that. He has a history of it. This isn't normal for him. What is this here? Aaron said, I do find it absolutely hilarious that the current staff's walk issues inspired Randy Flores to draft Michael McGreevy in the first round, and then he said the following: he almost has a phobia of walking batters. Hey, this is why it was so important. But let me finish my thought on Mike Shildt and what he can do. Mike Shildt needs to get the team back to basics, playing sound fundamental baseball. Sound fundamental baseball is boring, but sound fundamental baseball wins games. Let's get the focus back on that, and maybe taking your mind off of what you're doing at the plate and what you're not doing at the plate. Maybe that will help these guys kind of have a better mental mindset. So you've got to look at what's going on mentally as well as physically. So let's look at what their mechanics are. Let's look at where their mind's at, where's their head at. And something that's telling to me, and I just want to use this Chicago, the second to last game against Chicago, where it was close. It was 4-2 going into the seventh inning, and then they just hung a bunch of runs on us. Kind of tells me where Mike Shildt's head is at with this team. I believe that Mike Shildt believes this team needs some help. He wants help, and he's done everything except for say, send me help in his press conferences. There's a lot of this is what we are coming from him. Darren, it won it for us in 2019 as well. It wasn't just Whitey ball. In 2019, it was pitching and defense that got us into the playoffs and basically got us up against a red-hot Nationals team with better fundamentals and better pitching, but sound fundamental baseball. So what can they do? they can address the fundamentals. I just lost my train of thought. So they can address the fundamentals, and then from there they can go on and look at the mental aspect of it. What are you thinking? Do you not trust yourself? Oh, I remember what I was talking about. I was talking about that second to last game against Chicago. Mike Schilt has the bases loaded. Genesis Cabrera loads the bases, and then I don't remember how many outs there were. And he has two guys that he could go to in the bullpen. You can go to Giovanni Gallegos, or you can go to Junior Fernandez. These are kind of the options. And I'm only saying those options because the one guy is the one who I would have gone with, and the other one is the guy who he actually went with. So you've got Junior Fernandez, who has control issues. Well, you've got a guy 90 feet from home, so you can't walk or hit anyone. And Junior Fernandez has a really good fastball, but the good fastball doesn't have a lot of movement, and when that happens, you're not going to have a lot of success with that fastball. Or you can go to Giovanni Gallegos, who has been lights out for you basically this year. Yeah, he's struggled a couple times, but you can keep the game close. So what happens in that instance is Mike Schilt goes to Junior Fernandez. Now, I've had a lot of people on Twitter tell me the reason he goes to that is because what if you need Gio in the next game? Well, Giovanni Gallegos was rested, and he's a professional. You can go to him again, right? Especially if he gets out of that inning. But he is that kind of pitcher. He is the Rolaids relief, fireman, extinguisher kind of pitcher. He comes in and puts out the fire. And you've only got a couple of those in the bullpen, and one of those guys got you into the mess because sometimes he's absolutely lights out. This is Genesis Cabrera I'm talking about. Sometimes he's absolutely lights out. And then other times he's like, I can't hit the broadside of a barn, so you got to be quick with the hook. So they go with Junior Fernandez, though, and what that tells me is that you don't trust your offense to be able to score 2 runs in 3 innings, and therefore you're basically surrendering the game. Now, everybody who told me, well, what if you need Giovanni Gallegos in the next game, is also doing that same mindset. 4-2 is too big of a lead to overcome at that point in the game, so what we're going to do is quit and then play for the next game. And I hate that. I hate that. And you know who else I think would have hated that type of attitude is Tony La Russa. I think Whitey Herzog would have hated that kind of attitude. You play to win the game. So where's Mike Schilt's head at? What does that tell you? Well, to me, that tells me Mike Schilt doesn't necessarily trust his team. He doesn't believe his team is good enough. Whenever he goes through interviews and he's like, these guys are putting in all this hard work and these guys are doing this and they're doing that and they just aren't having the success, what he's telling you is they're giving him maximum effort and they're doing everything right and they're still falling short. That says that he doesn't believe his team is better than what they have been doing. That's a problem. I don't want my coach out there saying that about me. If I go out there and I lay an absolute egg as a major league player or even as a high school player, if I lay an absolute egg and my coach says, hey, leave him alone, he's doing his best, I know that egg is not my best. But then now I also know that my coach believes that that is my best. And that's terrible. I don't want that. So, yeah, I think there's this attitude of, hey, you're going to save the locker room when you do this. But I think you can lose the locker room by doing it. The coach doesn't think you're good enough. That's not great. So there's some things that I think Mike Schilt can do better. I think being a little harder on his guys, setting the expectations a little bit higher for them, expecting them to do better because they'll never achieve more than what you expect of them or what they expect of themselves. Don't cut their legs out whenever they're not doing well by saying they're doing their best because you're not actually defending them. You're saying that you're not good enough in a backwards sort of way. Have you guys ever thought about that? That's going to be an interesting topic, and I want to talk about the human aspect of baseball on Wednesday's episode of Cards and Coffee. And if you don't know what that is, about 9 o'clock on Wednesday mornings, get yourself a cup of coffee or your favorite drink and tune in. I do a little 30-minute podcast where I talked about Schilt's interview the last time I did it, and then before that I talked about an article with the sticky stuff. But there's a little plug there for Cards and Coffee. Aaron says those guys getting thrown into those given up scenarios probably go out there knowing it's over, and then you can't pitch with confidence. Yeah, there's a whole psychological aspect to this. And I think, I don't know if Mike Shildt doesn't believe in his team, but that's definitely the message that he's sending in his press conferences when he's saying you guys don't give them enough credit for what they're doing. They're doing their best. I think they're better than that. I mean, tell me what you guys think in the chat. I see there's 6 of you watching. Tell me what you guys think. Is what we saw in the first half the best this team can do? Because I watched a team go in and absolutely scald and fight and dig and play 3 really good baseball games against the best team in the majors. They went into San Francisco and took 2 of 3. That's something to hang your hat on. To me, that's better than sweeping the Marlins. That's better than sweeping Arizona. But you've got to sweep the Marlins. You've got to sweep Arizona because they're not good teams. You've got to beat bad teams as well. So Aaron says best, no, worst, no. Statistically and record-wise, they were, though, Aaron. And they're ahead of the Dodgers and San Diego. And they're still ahead of them. What are they now? They are 2 games ahead of the Dodgers and 6 games ahead of San Diego. And San Diego made a lot of moves. San Diego won the offseason. But do they have the best players? No, but they're playing the best baseball. So you go into a red-hot team and you cool them down. The best baseball right now, I think, was being played by the Brewers, but I don't know if that's the case anymore. I think they've kind of cooled off as well. So, chide your guys. Expect more of them. Understand that they give their best, but performance matters, and you know, and I know that they're better than this. The Cardinals are better than their record says they are. They're a better team than that, and you can't tell me otherwise. And I don't think they need a big splash move to get this right. I don't. And I think winning those 2 games against San Francisco, and I think that, well, basically splitting against Chicago, especially winning the last game before the rainout, I think that is huge going into the break, because the Cardinals are just 2 games below 500, and they're only 8 games out, and they could be so much further out. What do you say here, Patty? Patty says, I think he doesn't want them to read all the crap online and then believe that they suck. Obviously, they should be playing better, and they all already know that, but it's like he wants to shield them. Coddling would be a good word, Patty. I think that's a good word. And coddling doesn't help your guys get better. It's when you're raising kids, it's bad to coddle your kids. You've got to let your kids step out on their own, fail, and then respond to failure in the right way. Preventing your kids from failing is bad. And I think that's kind of what Mike Shilt's doing by coddling this team. He's trying to prevent them or shield them from failure. If you're a professional baseball player, you got to know that you don't read the crap. And I think that's why so many of them aren't that active on the Twitters, because, man, Twitter is brutal. What does Aaron say here? Anyone else find it ironic the Cardinals trainer got named to the All-Star game considering the injuries to the current roster? Yeah. And then he says, problem is a ton of guys still very much get on social media. If you're going to dive into the bare-knuckle fight that is Twitter, that is social media, then you better, gear up and be ready. You better have thick skin. If you don't have thick skin, it isn't for you. As a mom, I know that's tough to do. I don't know what else to tell you. You've got to let your kids fail, because part of being a parent is teaching them how to face adversity in real life. So anyway, same thing goes for coaching, right? You're going to face adversity. Things are going to be tough. You don't need to coddle them. You don't. When you as a parent tell me that you know your kids are better than that, you as a coach should be able to say, I know my guys are better than this. And you should tell your guys, I know you're better than this. You don't say this is the best you can do. You say, I know that you're better than this. And that's supportive in its own way. So that's what Mike Shildt can do. What can the Cardinals do as a team? Well, the roster has to improve, right? You can't rely on the same 3 relievers to get you through the rest of the season, because their arms are all going to fall off. So you can't rely on, what do they call them, Latin heat? Gallegos, Cabrera, and Reyes, which Reyes has been fantastic. He's been absolutely fantastic. Him getting named to the All-Star game is really cool, and I think it's a really cool moment for him. So what can they do for the rest of the season? Well, get some bullpen help, one, I think is a big thing. And bullpen help doesn't necessarily mean you got to sell the farm to get it. And then two, they need to get some starting pitching help. Would we all love to see them get Max Scherzer? But I don't think that Washington is ready to throw in the towel. Maybe they will be. Maybe they're sellers. No, it says they're 6 out of first in the East, so maybe they are. But Max Scherzer would be a great get. I think Max Scherzer would be a great fit. I think him wanting to close out his career in his home, what essentially amounts to his hometown, would be really cool. I think he would like to be a St. Louis Cardinal. I think there's part of him that would like to be a St. Louis Cardinal. I think Max Scherzer would be a great guy. I think Max Scherzer would be a great guy to have in the clubhouse. I think he would raise the intensity level of this whole team, and I think there are some guys that would really feed off of that. Aaron says he would be the exact opposite as a coach, which is why he shouldn't be a coach. Like, hey guys, WTF was that garbage, and then get fired. Oh man, coaching is something else. Hat tip to the guys who coach little league teams, because wow. Anyway, Max Scherzer would be a great fit for this team, but the Nationals are going to want an absolute ton for him, and I don't know if the Cardinals have the resources in their minor league system to get a guy like Max Scherzer. The other thing is too, you still need a starting pitcher. So I look at this like maybe you don't need a Max Scherzer kind of splash. I doubt they're going to see that kind of splash. Maybe they go after Max Scherzer in the offseason, which would be amazing. But I don't know that you're going to see a Max Scherzer kind of splash, but maybe some of these no-name guys out there that can come in and actually just kind of throw strikes. Yeah, don't touch Gorman or Liberatore right now. I agree 100% with Aaron. Leave those two guys alone. I could see bringing up Matthew Liberatore for the stretch run to kind of give you some innings. It'd be a good experience for him. I watched him in the Futures game. He was absolutely lights out. Nolan Gorman, yeah, Aaron says they need 2 to 3 starters. Yeah, you're not wrong. You can't finish the season with the team as it is. So I do think the Cardinals need to make some moves. So and it's going to be some like really kind of bottle rocket kind of pickups. There's just going to be guys you're like, oh, wow. But I do think you need to look for guys who can throw strikes. If you get starting pitching that can pound the strike zone and go 6-7 games or 6-7 innings, that's going to be huge for your bullpen. That'll help make your bullpen better. Pound the strike zone. Get these guys in the swinging mindset whenever they come up to bat. Right now, if you watch teams face the Cardinals, they're not biting on the borderline pitches. Umpires know the Cardinals have a control issue, so they're not giving the borderline pitches. That sort of thing snowballs. So you got to get in the strike zone, and I think picking up a couple pitchers that can basically hammer the strike zone that are control pitchers, I think that would be huge for this team. I think it'd be huge. I think the team would be an above 500 team if they had pitchers who could throw strikes. I don't know how much above 500, but I think that, if the last season they would have had a pitcher who could throw strikes, they'd have been well above 500, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 games above 500 at this point. And they had been in the thick of it right now. They'd be in the thick of it if they were a couple games above 500 right now. I don't think that this team is a throwaway team. I don't think that it's too late to do anything with this team. I think there's a couple minor adjustments. If they could get their arms around it, they get their hands around it, they could be right back in it. And we've kind of seen this from the teams in the Central too over the past half season. They get red hot, they go on a run. The Cardinals did it first, and then they went cold. Then the Cubs did it. Now the Cubs are ice cold. Now the Brewers have gotten red hot. But if the pattern holds, maybe they get ice cold. Aaron's right. Waino is still a stud. 3.5 ERA, pushing to 185 innings. He's our best pitcher. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, where would we be at with Jack Flaherty not injured right now, I think we would be above 500. I didn't know that he meant that much to this team. I'm like, how much can one starter mean? Well, when everybody else gets hurt, having your ace in the rotation matters. So that's good. But where would we be with Flaherty? Well, at this point, it doesn't matter. You've got to find some people to plug the holes and stop the leaks. So some bullpen help, some starting pitching. And I hate to say this, but I think they need some help at shortstop. And I'm like, well, what can you do? Well, let's get creative here. Let's get creative on how you can fix this team. I think Paul DeJong still has. I think Paul DeJong has value still. I think he's a valuable player. I don't think he's a valuable player for the Cardinals right now. And so I think that you could get some pitching for him if you moved Paul DeJong. And then you say, Brad, well, then who do you play at shortstop? Well, I think Edmundo Sosa is a decent backup. I think that he filled in admirably, more than well for him whenever Paul DeJong was injured. But what if we did this? And just stick with me here. What if you moved Tommy Edman to shortstop? And you let Tommy Edman play some shortstop for the rest of the season. You don't necessarily go pick up a shortstop, but you play Tommy Edman at shortstop. You'll have to get a shortstop in the offseason, naturally. But you let Tommy Edman play some shortstop, and then you can start Matt Carpenter, who's been hitting well. Don't at me, Matt Carpenter haters. He's been doing well over the past month. He's been trending in the right direction. Of course, Paul DeJong's been trending in the right direction as well. I've liked what I've seen from his last couple at bats. But Matt Carpenter's been showing some promise, and I think that you could play him at second base. You got Nolan Gorman. You could bring him up and let him get some swings at the major league level. You could do that, and then if something like that takes off, then bang, you've got some success. Just bear with me here. Imagine Nolan Gorman having success down the stretch at second base and at the plate. Aaron just threw up a little bit. What made you throw up, Aaron? Was it the thought of trading Paul DeJong? Or was it bringing up Nolan Gorman? But imagine just bear with me. If Nolan Gorman had success at second base, you've added a ton of pop to your lineup. The kid has a great swing. I've seen it in person, and the ball just sounds different coming off of his bat. And I'm really excited about him. I know some of you are worried that what if we bring him up and, he doesn't have success? What about his psyche? Desperate times call for desperate measures. I don't think you can permanently break a player on a stretch run. I just don't think that. And I don't think that Nolan Gorman is the type of guy who would be like, oh, I'm not good enough to play Major League Baseball. Oh, Aaron said it's just Carpenter playing significant time. Yes, but if he's hitting the ball, if he's trending in the right direction, that's what we need. Him splitting time with Nolan Gorman at second base could be what the doctor ordered. I don't know. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and some of you guys are saying, hey, the Cardinals should be sellers at deadline. This team's a waste, sell it, rebuild for next year, whatever. Well, then why not experiment this year? Why not give these guys a shot? I think you got a guy in Matthew Libator who could come up and maybe help out the team in the rotation. I mean, you're down 2 to 3 pitchers. Pick one up in a trade and give the kid a shot. He's got options. If it doesn't work, send him back down. It's not the end of the world. See what he can do. Get creative. If you're limited by what you can trade and what you can do, if you feel locked in, then use the pieces that you have. Whenever you're in a desperate situation, it's never a bad time to try something experimental. To me, going out on a limb, taking risk, that's where basically your most successful people become most successful. They take a risk. I'll give you an example. How many of y'all were paying attention to, he's the owner of Virgin Mobile. Richard, can't think of his last name. Anyway, billionaire. Dude just went to space. You want to talk about taking risk. He went to space. He's like, I believe. Right, Aaron. I believe that Richard Branson went to space. Why couldn't I remember that? I kept thinking, Richard Branson, it's like such a non-English sounding name. It's more like Southern Missouri. But Richard Branson, the owner of Virgin, him and a couple other people were the first private citizens to get into space. They weren't astronauts, and basically it was his money that made it happen. You want to talk about taking a risk? Taking a risk. Here, I'll give you a bigger example. A little later on this year, in the same vein, Jeff Bezos, the billionaire owner of Amazon, has designed his own rocket ship, a la Elon Musk, his own space capsule, a la Elon Musk, and he's going to be the first person to ride in it to space. He's a risk taker, but you shoot big because that's how you have success. When you're in this I've got nothing to lose phase like the Cardinals are, what do you got? I mean, if you don't do anything, you're going to finish like you are. You're going to finish a couple games under 500. You're going to miss the playoffs. Everybody's going to be mad at you. So get crazy. You've got Nolan Gorman at AAA. You've got Matthew Liberatore at AAA. Bring him up. Shoot your shot. You might hit, you might catch lightning in a bottle. Where are you at? But like Aaron said, you don't acquire Nolan Arenado to sell at the deadline. That's not why they got Nolan Arenado. They didn't get Nolan Arenado to finish below 500. They didn't get Nolan Arenado to miss the playoffs. And I know they're in a trust situation with injuries. So go big. Try something. Get crazy. Get experimental. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. But we know what you're doing now isn't. So that's kind of where I'm at, and we're just closing in on this hour here. That's where I'm at with this team. Try something big. If you don't want to make the splash, if you're worried about money, if you can't, they don't ever show us the books. We don't know where they sit financially, and I know as a fan it's really easy to spend other people's money. It's like, oh, just spend some money, dig into your wallet and give these guys some money. And then every time he does it, we get upset about it whenever the guy they gave a bunch of money to doesn't work out. Dexter Fowler. They gave way too much money to Dexter Fowler. I like Dexter Fowler, but they just overpaid him, and I'm sure Aaron would agree with me on that. Same goes for Matt Carpenter. I really like Matt Carpenter. And to be honest with you, I kind of liked the extension at the time, but it hasn't paid off like we thought it would be, or like I thought it would be. It hasn't paid off like Mozeliak paid off. And so everybody now, hindsight's 2020, you stupid, spending all this stupid money on stupid places. Well, it didn't work out. You could go throw a bunch of money at a big, Matt Carpenter, Carlos Martinez, Aaron, you got a great point here. I see the trade talks for Joey Gallo, but who sits if they get Gallo? O'Neill? No. Carlson? No. Bader? Based on what he's done, I'm with you. I wouldn't. He provides a spark to this team. He's something important. Who you sit? I don't think the offense is the problem. The one spot that I see them having trouble and that you could move somebody and get some help would be shortstop. I think you could get somebody to play shortstop that would be more successful than what Paul DeJong has been this season. And maybe you, if you don't get a shortstop, maybe you get a guy, if you do decide to go out and get a shortstop, you get a guy who can be a leadoff hitter. And then you can slide Tommy Edman down in the lineup. Tommy Edman's a solid 6, 7, 8 hitter. I think all day he could be a solid 6, 7, 8 hitter. And then you find a guy who can be your leadoff guy. Or you do what I say, you trade DeJong for some pitching, and you try your hand with Edman at short and Carpenter at second, or bring up Gorman for crazy whatever reason, bring him up, give him a shot to help out your rotation, maybe bring up Liberatore. They both have options. Give them a taste of the major league. You don't have to leave them up here. I don't know that starts the clock. And you just, desperate times call for desperate measures. Go crazy. Try something. Don't do nothing at the trade deadline. I think if the Cardinals right now do nothing at the trade deadline, if they don't make any move, I think they're going to lose the fan base, and I think attendance is going to fall way off. Attendance is off now. I think attendance is going to fall way off after the trade deadline if nothing happens, if they don't try to get better. Yeah, Aaron said the Fowler deal was terrible and he hated it from the start. That's kind of where I'm at with this team. You got to mix things up. You got to stir the pot, and if you don't want to do it externally, maybe do it internally. Give it a shot. I know a lot of you guys are thinking that I'm crazy. Newsflash, I am. I'm absolutely insane, and I am not above taking risk. I am not above doing unorthodox things whenever something isn't working. I'm not above it, and I don't see why a major league team should be above it. You can't get complacent. I tried to read a pretty good article by Ben Fredrickson, and he was talking about the difference between the Cardinals organization and the Brewers organization, and how the similarities that the two teams faced and how they both approached the same thing. And this is kind of my big gripe with him, and I'll probably close out the show with this. What he was talking about was the Brewers had a problem. Their problem was their shortstop. He wasn't performing. He wasn't doing well, and they were counting on him. I forget what his name was. He started with a U. So rather than go, oh, man, he just isn't doing well, and we got some injuries and blah, 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 the GM for the Brewers went out and made a move. He wasn't a big name, big splash, but he was exactly what the team needed to get going. So he went out and he made that move. He didn't sit back. He didn't wait. He saw an issue and he did something unorthodox, which is make a trade for a player way before the trade deadline. He didn't wait for the price to come down. He went out and made the move. Well, since then, the Brewers went on that big old run, and now they're 8 games out in front of the Cardinals and first in the division. They're actually 4 games ahead of the Reds, who are the next closest team, the second-place team in the division. They're 4 games ahead because he made a move. Now, the Cardinals faced a similar situation. They need a starting pitcher, but they waited for the market to come to them, and that's a gamble. The Cardinals, to me, as an organization, my biggest gripe with them as an organization at the coaching level and both at the front office and the coaching level is this: they are too slow to react. I feel like sometimes Mike Schilt lets a pitcher stay in 1 to 2 batters too many. I think that John Mozeliak is too slow to make a move. He's too cautious. And when you're too cautious, no guts, no glory. What are you going to do? Aaron says, if both Paul DeJong and Tommy Edman reach 600 bats this season, they won't. But hear me out. On their current pace, Edman would have a 3.5 BWAR, and DeJong would have a 3.8. But here's the thing. I don't believe Tommy Edman is doing what he's doing. I don't think that the current slump that Edman is in will hang around for the rest of the season. I think Edman will get better as the season progresses, especially if you move him out of the lineup, out of the top spot in the lineup. I think we kind of see where Paul DeJong is. He is what he is at this point. It's been 2-3 seasons of this. Maybe not quite this bad, but this. And I think he needs a change of scenery. Tommy Edman, I say give him a shot, and he'll get better. So anyway, no guts, no glory. You won't have any success if you sit pat at the break. You won't. You won't have any success. Got to get some help at the trade deadline. And I don't think you sell. I don't think you sell. Who do you sell? And then if you sell, how does that help you next season? Because next season they're going to have to perform, right? This season's a wash because of injuries, not because of talent. The team was too thin. That was that's the team's problem. They're too thin. And so if you don't have the injuries, the team's a lot more competitive, but because you had the injuries and you had this thin lineup. So you don't blow that up. What you do is you shore up the starters because you know guys like Jack Flaherty are going to be back next year. You're probably going to have Miles Michaelis back next year. You're going to have some guys back in the starting rotation. You're going to have some monies coming off the book in the form of Wainwright. I think this is Wainwright's last season. I think he's going to retire because he doesn't want to deal with the labor strike coming up. But anyway, that's all I really have for you guys. I had a lot of fun chatting, had a lot of fun talking to myself for an hour, probably just talking to you. Hope I did all right. Hope you guys enjoyed yourself. If you did, make sure you leave a like on the Facebook page. I would also ask you guys, too, to jump over. We're on YouTube. Go to... gets rid of Major League Talent to be better next season. Good luck. I agree 100%, Aaron. I agree 100%. So, if you guys would, you can follow us. Let's see here. I'll get my banners up. You can follow me on Twitter, @RangeBrad. You can follow Aaron on Twitter, @AaronMSTL. Follow the Mutual Suspects on Twitter, @mutuals_suspects. If you're watching this on any platform that isn't Facebook, go to Facebook, like our page, facebook.com/Mutual Suspects. We're also on YouTube. Help us grow our brand, guys. Go over to YouTube. If you're on, if you are on YouTube at all, if you have a YouTube account, it doesn't cost you anything to go over and subscribe to our channel. The same show you see on Facebook, you see on YouTube. All of my chats come in. All of our chats come in. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Facebook. I'll see it all. I comment on it all. I like audience participation. Aaron loves audience participation, helps move the show along. So if you would, help us reach the same number of likes we have on Facebook, as get our subscriber count up on YouTube. I would really appreciate that. Facebook page just hit 500 likes, which is awesome. Be awesome to get it on our YouTube page. Both of you guys can like them both. And then you just watch on your preferred platform. I think it's a win-win. So give our Facebook page a like, subscribe to our YouTube page, turn on the notification bell so you get notified when we go live. Make sure you always get notified whenever we go live on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter @mutual_suspects. We broadcast on that as well. We're all over the place. We love talking Cardinals baseball, and it's a really good time. All right, that's it. You guys have a great night. Enjoy what's left of the Home Run Derby. I know I said I wouldn't go that long, but I went an hour and not just 30 minutes, but that's okay. It's good to go with more content than less. And then I will see you guys hopefully on Wednesday. Mark your calendars, Wednesday at 9. I'm going to do Mutual Suspects, Cards and Coffee. We're going to talk about the human aspect of baseball. Have a great day, guys. I'll talk to you next time.